Do one of these over the table or something.
Welcome back, pregame.tv. Hopefully no more interruptions from the peanut gallery producing these videos. They do a great job, but stick to the production, boys. Chicago Bears, they're 2-0 in the preseason, but they looked pretty much awful against the Jacksonville Jaguars, the best team I've ever seen, at least visually, that's projected to win 5 games. They've had extra time here, 8 days to prepare, but they go to Seattle, biggest home field advantage in the NFL. Seattle, absolutely, we expected they're going to have trouble against Denver. They had a butt kicking of the San Diego Chargers. They're back in their home crib. Big game.
It is, if you got money on it, obviously. I'm watching that game the other night that you just mentioned, talking about the Bears and the Jaguars. The scary thing, this is for regular season, not for this particular game, but the scary thing out of the Chicago Bears, when I'm watching them against Jacksonville, is that they got no pressure on Blake Bortles, on Chad Henne, until they just sold out. I mean, it was bring the kitchen sink, let's sell out. Jacksonville's got some interior offensive line problems, and they just bum rush right up the middle to try to get to the quarterback. And they hurried Henne early on in the game when Chicago's key players on defense were in the contest. That's something to pay attention to in the regular season. There's going to be some overs when it comes to Chicago, Steve. But as far as Seattle, this was the poster game, San Diego, Seattle, for why I like betting on preseason football. San Diego comes in, yeah, we're going to go through the motions. That's basically what you read between the lines. Pete Carroll was so ticked off at his football team for what they did the previous week, and we know Pete Carroll likes to win preseason football games. I don't know if he's going to do that throughout the rest of the preseason, the final 2 games, but he was not happy with the way his reserves played in the second half. He said not only, Steve, did he want to see the first teamers do well in the first half and stay focused, but he goes, I especially want to see my reserves play with complete 100% focus over the final 2 quarters in their week 2 game. Their offensive line coach was ticked off at the offensive line. So we saw all this great, let's get out there and win one info for Seattle, and a lot of we're going to go through the motions for San Diego. I don't think Seattle's going to be, in fact, I bet against them. They're not going to be able to do this against the Chicago Bears because they're not going to have that same motivation from their head coach. And I think it's more of a going through the motions situation for Seattle in week 3.
I've got my trends here. One of them that fade a home favorite of 7+ off a straight up against the spread win when their opponent's not winless. Well, that one right across the board fits. And one thing about these trends is like if it almost fits, I'm fine with it also. It doesn't have to exactly match the parameters. Basically, fat, drunk, and happy off a butt kicking, a great performance at home, and makes sense. All right, we gave the fans, they have to pay for tickets twice. We'll give them at least one game where we really kick butt. Now it's evaluated.
That's what Seattle did at home. They gave that one game where they kicked butt. They made the fans happy. They looked like they knew what they were doing the entire game. Key players and reserves. You mentioned that stat you had. There's also one that goes back a decade plus that I tracked against the closing number, and if it's above 3.5 or more, you take that underdog in week 3, and it's cashed at about a 60% clip over the past decade plus. So it's also, and in this one, you're going to have a number that closes over 3, obviously.
Right, and also I like the fact that the loss Seattle had week 1, Denver was super motivated, and that's it really pointed towards that week 2 game being the one game they're going to take serious. And I like the fact, I would like the Bears to have lost to Jacksonville, but they really did lose the game. They got outplayed completely and stole it in the fourth quarter. This Jag team, you talked before about how much you like them over 4.5. So now I got to ask you like them over 5, lay $1.35?
You know, I think I like this team to win 6 games this year. It's not a big margin of error against 5 minus $1.30, but I still think it's a 6-win team, and I'm talking about with Chad Henne on the field. I think the ideal situation for the Jacksonville Jaguars is that Chad Henne comes out and gets to play and stays uninjured through the entire course of the season, and Blake Bortles is able to learn and get over some of the inexperienced mistakes that he would make as a starting quarterback if he did so in his rookie season, so he's ready for next year and beyond. I really like Blake Bortles. I really do. There's nothing that I saw in week 2 that bothered me from what I saw in week 1. He just seems to be progressing, while you got guys like Bridgewater, who's great one week, bad the next, Manziel, who really slumps as a rookie. I like Bortles, but I think he needs a year behind Chad Henne, and I do think Jacksonville is a 6-win team this year, Steve.
All right, I wonder if I should make that a double official play.
Well, yeah, and let me say this. First of all, I do want to get your take on this, and I am going to remember what you got here, because you are up over 65 units the calendar year, right? Since January 1st, going into this weekend, more than 65 units of profit. What do you got?
Let me go ahead and make it official. All right, let's hope to get up over 70 units of profit. I might add that I was up over 70 units, so obviously I dropped back 6 units this past week, so I did not have the mammoth week of football that Scott had. So looking to bounce back, and when that happens, I always say dollar cost averaging. Now is the time to invest more money after a rare losing week. 2 plays here. We talked about it before. Scott liked Jacksonville over. Hopefully you're paying attention. You played them over 4.5 and laid $1.40. Well, I still think it's the right side. We'll go over 5, lay $1.30 right now. That's the prevalent number in the marketplace. And the Jag team is looking very good. And I love the fact they jettison like Maurice Jones-Drew. And those are the type of those veterans that are used to like maybe having a chance at contention. They don't do well on teams that are just rebuilding. So I like the fact that they're going with youth. But right here, we're going to go to Seattle. It's always dangerous going against Pete Carroll in preseason. He's something like 22-13 straight up. And it's dangerous going up to Seattle and fading this team at home. But it's not going to be the frenzied home field advantage that we typically see. They got their great win against San Diego. I really expect that the Bears are going to come in, especially in the second half. They played lousy against Jacksonville. They've had 8 days to prepare. We're going to go ahead and soak up the +7 and hope to get the hook as well. Take our chances with the dog in a game that I think will be competitive on Friday night here.
I'm going to go with you. I'm not going to go against you. You know, there was an old dinosaur, I like to call him, who made his living as a bettor. And I met him around. Yeah, well, you're not quite the dinosaur, but you've done a very good job.
Getting old.
But I'll tell you what, it was around 20 years ago when the guy got in touch with me. I was doing the old Stardust Line show at the time. Professional bettor, that's all he did. And he told me right away, he goes, the reason I like to play you off a losing week is because you don't bring sandpaper to bed. And that's the way I think of you. There's not a lot of back-to-back weekend losses. So I'm on your side or nothing, and I will be with Jacksonville with you on Saturday or Friday night.
If it doesn't work, I can always open up cactuspants.com and see if we can go ahead and punch in some winners. That's my little boy loves that. He's like, cactus underwear. That's the silliest thing I've ever heard. Okay, enough silliness. We're going to, although you could argue it's all silly because it's preseason, but hey, I tell you, do you like making money? Because that's what this man has been doing so far, and that's what we're here for. He is going to be breaking down Minnesota, Kansas City. Sometimes we talk about big game odds. Forget the big game. Let's just talk about odds and making money. Stay with us. Pregame.tv.
Good stuff.
Cactus.